Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Desk, powered by Xfinity. My name is Solid Jake, joined here with Dreadnought, and this is the Grand Finals.
Naventic versus Gale eSports. Gale has shown that they have what it takes to make it here to the Grand Finals for the first time ever. And Naventic pretty much has just got to prove that they have the strength that they've had throughout this entire tournament. They did look a little sloppy, though, in the last set that they had, and I feel like that might be enough that maybe Gale can capitalize on their mistakes.
Yeah, honestly, right after the match where we had Naventic defeat Brainpower 2-0, Naventic was actually, it almost seemed like they had lost because they were, there was a bit of arguing going on between the teams. So they weren't fully happy with the results they put out. Obviously, worked out those kinks coming to the Grand Finals, hopefully. But let's talk a little bit more about Grand Finals because we just saw their semifinal. And that's the first time I've ever seen Rafflecopter playing as Rhaegar. They did double support.
Yeah, they ran a double support. I agree.
No tank, double support. Really cool. Like, did you expect that coming into this?
I didn't expect it, not from Gale Force, but at the same time, I haven't gotten to sit in on any of their scrims. Maybe it's a pocket strategy they've had for some time, and I mean, they use it very effectively. I agree. I have never seen a Raffle on kind of that off support ever. But I did like the composition overall. I thought it was well thought out. They played it pretty well for the most part. There were a couple misplays here and there, but nothing nearly as drastic as maybe some of the it almost felt like the miscommunication that existed with Naventic.
Yeah, well, talking about Naventic, at the start of the weekend, we were saying Naventic very well might be hiding some of their strats, considering that they have already qualified for Sweden, the Global Championship, and they don't necessarily need to win here. And they can hide strats. Do you think they have been hiding their strats?
I think they have. I mean, they have, Zuno said it in his interview very well, I feel like they have some of the deepest hero pools when it comes to the entire tournament to be able to play at the highest level. So I think that alone means that they're going to be saving some approach to the team fights. I just don't know if they're going to risk it here. Do they want to pull them out here? Again, you said because they've already qualified for Sweden. Do they need to really, since they're the last team to qualify in the world for the Summer Regional, do they really need to be showing them at this tournament right now? Or are they like, we're fine. We've got the second, you know, we aren't worried about the money. It's more about the long run, right? Like, what is the end goal? Or maybe they just win without showing anything, and it's just like, it doesn't even matter. We get to save anything for Summer anyways.
So if Naventic is saving all of their strats, on the other side of the world, MVP actually just kind of lost 0-4.
They did.
Arguably doing the same thing, saving their strats, hiding what they want to do at the Global Championship. Could you see a similar fate happening here to Naventic?
I could a little bit. I would argue that the skill of Tempest is something that was impressive. They put a lot of teamwork in, and you could tell that the gap between the two teams wasn't nearly as high as I would argue might exist here when it comes to this matchup today. That's not to take away from any of the teams specifically. It's just more historically, if you looked at it, like Tempest was actually coming in and just like bodying team out. Like they've done very, very well
in
recently.
The semifinal, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Super impressive series. Well, guys, this is going to be Naventic versus Gale eSports. So without further ado, let's introduce our teams.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing your finalist, Gale eSports versus Team Naventic. This is the finals of the Heroes of the Storm North American Regional.
Alrighty, guys. Well, there they are, your finalists here for the final qualification match possible. Well, actually, Dread, there is something we should talk about. Before we get there, let's actually go through Gale Force. 19 wins, 11 losses. We see Raffle playing, obviously, a lot of Falstad. You know, that's been his comfort pick for sure. And then the Illidan there. Michael Udall is such a threat on that hero. Yeah, he very much is. And, I mean, Illidan being a natural threat overall and melee assassins being something that Mike Udall is very well known for. It's not surprising to see it's one of their most picked up. We saw them even let it go through the draft when facing Astral Authority in the last series here, but I don't think they'll be willing to risk that against a team like Naventic. Yeah, so of course, Gale Force, I mean, we've got, there's Fury being one handsome nerd, putting his earbud, making sure he's ready for this matchup. But this whole crew, I mean, they've showed their diversity as a team. Obviously, we just mentioned Rafflecopter, who is normally considered a carry, playing that Rhaegar, going into that full flex role, but then Crowan, I mean, obviously the nicest hair. Dunktrain's beard can't even compare with that hair.
It's not even close.
Not even.
Not even close. He's also one of the better Lee Ming players, Crowan, out of all of North America. He's very, very effective, making sure whenever a CC lands to hit his entire combo on a single target. And then there's also Rafflecopter, who we were talking about his the depth of some of his hero pool, moving to that off support when they run a double support composition here. And the one true Brightwing himself, Akaface.
Yeah, you know, that was so interesting too, like just seeing in that double support situation how his Brightwing can always shine, but usually he does that lone support Brightwing very frequently, but no warrior needed when they do the double support. Very, very cool. And then Michael Udall, the Azmodan master himself, the melee assassin. We'll see him playing heroes like Kerrigan in certain situations. He likes the in-your-face playstyle, but my goodness, does he make that Asmo dunk work on Blackheart's Bay.
Yeah, he's also the shot caller for the team too, and it seems to show very well when he is on those very carry-centric heroes. It seems that like with everybody working directly around him, it works out well. But here are who they will be facing here. Team Naventic, obviously with the dominant record here, and again, the repeated most picked heroes. I've said time and time again, I do believe Fan is the only player probably I'd put in Li Ming above Crowan, but his Li Ming is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think there has been so many different players on this team that have shined in different parts of this tournament. Yeah. We were talking about Kenma's Uther yesterday, really just kind of above and beyond. Zuna is always a playmaker. Fan himself. Man, his Sonya today is just shrekking people. And it's really just a team of legends across the board. They went on to Korea. They had decent success. Then here in DreamHack Austin, the first regional event, they took it back to Cloud9. They won the whole tournament, qualifying for Sweden. But they just look unstoppable here at the ESL North America Regional. Yeah,
at this point, it does appear as though they are unstoppable. McIntyre there. One thing that we touched up on in their last series is he's a very, very aggressive Murden player, which is something Kalaris actually comparing him to Zuno when Zuno plays, because he's obviously famously known for being very, very aggressive, but McIntyre seems to mirror that aggression, which is, I find, really appealing when it comes to this role swap style that they've been playing recently. Putting Mac onto it, it seems to really accent having a backline that is equally aggressive as the front line now for Naventic.
Yeah, but do you think there's actually room to punish that? I mean, sometimes McIntyre seems to be almost ahead of his team in a pace at some points where it has cost, like especially late game versus Brainpower in game number 2. There were scenarios where I actually thought that just the Murden diving in on his own was going to be a costly mistake for Naventic.
Yeah, I think it is punishable. I mean, whenever there's aggression, if it is not perfectly executed, it's always punishable. I wouldn't say it just sits only on McIntyre's shoulders. I mean, obviously, Zuna at times, even Fan in the last game that they played, had moments where they might be a little bit too aggressive and was easily punished for it. So it all comes down to how well it's calculated, really, when you are that aggressive team.
Well, guys, the first battleground of this best-of-5 series here in the Grand Finals is going to be Infernal Shrines. Now, Infernal Shrines has become a pretty common first battleground in most matchups. And in many regions, too. We see it a lot in Korea. We see it a lot in China.
It's internationally the most played map.
Yeah. So, honestly, these teams are going to be confident in their strategies. We're going to see what they bust out. I don't know if we'll see anything super crazy right out of the gates here, though.
I would argue it wouldn't be unrealistic to see a Kerrigan already.
Really?
On this map specifically. I think it's something, both of the teams have very good Kerrigan players. I wouldn't be surprised to see them bust it out. It's great on this map specifically. It's the beauty of why this map is actually so popular, because the hero pool becomes less limited. There are a bunch of heroes that are viable here. So.
Yeah, that's true. The role of specialist is powerful. We see both the 3 major specialists, of course. Zagara, Sylvanas will all get play here on this map. Like you mentioned, Kerrigan, her mobility, using those skeletal, the little skeletons to just dive around the points.
One hero I am worried about when we know that the map is going to be Infernal Shrines is Zul. Zul's a hero that I feel like this tournament hasn't seen too high a prioritization from a majority of the teams. And I am afraid to see... I know Naventic's going to be able to prioritize it appropriately. I don't know how much. We did see Gale Force pull it out in their last series, but I don't know if they're going to be able to understand exactly where it's going to be a problem when it comes to the draft in particular. But we are going to be getting into it. Gale Force eSports is going to be the first pick here. Going with the Kel'Thas band, not surprising. Great wave clear when it comes to the map. Everything about him is very good. Are they worried about the Illidan, though, here for Naventic? I think that's going to be it, yeah.
Okay, so Illidan band, pretty standard stuff here for a large battleground.
Zul, Sonya, Tass, one of the 3, I'm guessing, is going to be the first pick here.
Knowing, yeah, I like this pickup denying the Tass Litter just because of how confident Naventic is. If Tass was left alone, we would see Tass Sonya almost no matter what. Or the Sonya Rhaegar, also a very strong option for Team Naventic. We've been seeing a lot of Rhaegar prioritization within Uther bands. Do you think Gale Force will pick up Uther? Knowing that,
when you have Akaface, it's not a must-have. I don't think they need to pick it up here. At the same time, you don't see Akaface play Karzim too much. He did play yesterday one time, I believe, maybe more than once. Unless they're going to pair it with a heavy aggressor, I don't think it's a must-have. They do decide to go with the Greymane here. Zul has still not been touched so far into this draft. They might be worried about dropping in the ban phase here, or they could pick it up as well. I do like Naventic's response very much, the Rhaegar and the Sonya pickup. Li Ming, I think this is a very high prioritization of her, probably too much since it's one of her worst maps.
Yeah.
But I feel like Gale Force feels like they have to pick it because they need Crowan on that hero. Honestly, I feel like that's what they feel like in this situation.
I mean, I think Crowan definitely shines on Li Ming for sure, but like you mentioned, not necessarily the best clear when it comes to just fighting over the objective. Struggles to actually get the damage on the backline too, with all of the minions in the way of that orb in its travel path. We are now going into the next bans with the Brightwing Respect ban. I mean, this is really, I mean, we're talking about Akaface.
Yeah, it's definitely a target ban towards Akaface in this situation. Gale Force now thinking about their ban. What do they want to remove? Are they worried about a double melee? Zul Sonya is not unheard of, especially when it comes to Infernal Shrines. You send one to get the wave clear in the 2 lanes, Zul specifically, and then Sonya rotate to get the cap. You have a great skirmishing 4v4, and you also have one of the best wave clears to soak the side 2 lanes in the early. It also just is a very powerful death ball composition. With the lack of Tyrael playing NA, it's actually a pretty viable strategy. Not a must-have, but it is something that they still have to consider, because typically you don't expect 2 melee assassin-ish style players on the same team.
Okay, well, they're really giving this a lot of thoughts just to make sure they run through all the scenarios. I mean, having the momentum going into Game 1 of the Grand Finals, it's a best-of-5 series. It's a long run to win no matter how you look at it, but you want to have every edge you can get. Now, will it be a standard ban? They actually go for Sylvanas.
Yeah.
And this could be Naventic locking in that Zul pretty quickly,
I think it's going to be Murden. I think... I don't know if they'll go with the Zul. I think a Murden is going to be almost 100% pickup here, and if they wait for the Zul, it might be in the later half. I think they might even completely neglect it now at this point. Murden to be able to deny from their opponents. Typically, Naventic is just kind of thrives when they have that, the hard CC, great hero.
So what about Falstad, just considering it, how often we see Gale Force throwing Falstad in there for a Rafflecopter, just picking it up to deny it? Do you think there's any value in that?
There is some, but I think Naventic's a team that's confident enough that it's like, we don't even really need to deny you what you want. Like, Falstad's still good for Naventic too, right? So it's not the end of the world if they decide to be able to go down that route. Especially now that the backliners is getting rather limited with how many bans have come out to them. Falstad is becoming more appealing. But I think we can expect Gale Force to try to move on to a melee. I would like to see it, I guess, I don't know. They're in a rough spot right now. They go with the Falstad.
Okay.
So what is the tank decision here? What is the support decision here? They don't have any true tank or support quite yet. I don't think it's going to be the Tyrande. It could be the TAS Tyrande.
ETC Tyrande as like to round up the composition, which is kind of like a seclude and blow up. But we've seen very little success from Tyrande in general in this event. And, you know, we were talking about this out back. A lot of it's just because of how many dive heroes there are in this game. Even with Sprint, Tyrande struggles to get away from those Zeratools and Greymanes and the Sonyas that are diving in and making her day just a little bit too difficult.
I mean, and one, major thing for me that I find very frustrating with that style of play in the current situation of the game is with the heavy stun nerfs that have come into play, like each one of the stuns are now reducing the duration by a large amount. So what was a forever long combo that DPS could be coming out for like a second longer, it almost feels like, when it comes to, it's just not anywhere near at the same level that it once was. And with the lack of wave clear that you get with her as a hero, it just seems like if you are not flawless in your play, it's going to struggle. The Arthas is picked up though for Gale Force eSports.
With double support, Arthas is going to be very hard to kill. I know you're a big fan of Syndragosa. I don't see much of a case for it here.
Not when the map objective isn't that great at pushing on its own. They also don't have anything that's necessary for the chase specifically, so I don't think it's going to be the case here. We do need to keep in mind that if he does go Army of the Undead, though, Sonya spinning the wind between all of those is going to do a large amount of damage to his ghoul, get rid of him relatively quickly, and help keep her alive.
And Tychus is going to be kind of an issue for that Arthas.
It is going to be a problem with the amount of DPS they have in the front line. Li Ming's going to get very little poke. Arthas... Gale Force is in a rough spot, right? Because when you look at the Shrine contention here, essentially you're going to have Greymane and Arthas are going to move up, try and get wave clear. You have no wave clear outside of the task. Like, Li Ming's going to provide anything. Greymane's going to do a little bit. Arthas has mid-level, but Arthas and Greymane are going to be wearing an absurd amount of damage during this situation. Meanwhile, the only person who's really going to be wearing damage, Murden, self-heal, not a big deal, has one of the best healers behind him. Sonya, health-heal, can heal, keep herself up, decent amount of wave clear, paired with the Rhaegar. So when it comes to Shrine fights, Gale Force needs to be very efficient with their movements.
Yeah, decisions. They have to win. Like, they have to just bully with Arthas, get someone picked off, and get the points. Because honestly, just look at the AoE, the splash, boomerangs alone from Falstad, the melting point grenades coming in from Tychus. Everything about that is just going to evaporate all those minions.
Yeah, they're in a rough spot right now for Gale Force. I do think when they pull away from the shrines, they do have a pretty solid composition overall. It'll be interesting to see if Gale Force actually moves with a 7-sided in this situation compared to running with the Divine Palm. Yesterday we saw them with Palm. We also saw a 7-sided coming out from Naventic today. There is a double melee, a triple melee technically for Naventic. So
with Aqua Face, I would really expect to see Palm here.
I think so too. And the isolation is not going to be nearly as effective.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that is what these teams are fighting for. The trophy and the title to call themselves the champions here of the ESL North America Regional #2. And on the left side, that is Team Naventic. We have Kenma playing as Rhaegar, big impact on Falstad. Zuno will be playing as Tychus McIntyre on Muradin. And Sonya is on Fan.
And for Gale Force eSports, we're going to have Fury on the Arthas. Rafflecopter is going to be playing Tacitor. Michael Udall on Greymane. Akaface on the Karzim. And of course, Li Ming is played by Crowan.
The teams have loaded on in here. We're going to Infernal Shrines for game #1 in this best-of-5 series. And that will be Naventic in the blue.
Tychus build that's going to be coming out this game might be a little bit than we saw earlier today. Right out the gates, his level 1 is still going to be going with Shrug It Off, building that resistance. I want to know if he's going to be going the bigger they are as well as 4. Outside of that, all of the talents are pretty much exactly what you would expect out of all of these heroes.
Guys, let us know who you think will win the finals. Use the hashtag HDC. Gale Force, a little bit of the favorites right now.
Man. Fan favorite coming out here. I also know Gale Force, Fury specifically, has been trying to ask me how I feel about the Arthas and talking about his builds. I know that he likes to lean towards a Death Coil-oriented build that we do see at times all around the world. I don't know if that's when he's going to be looking to go in this game specifically, but we'll see as the talent tiers move on. But so far, they're going to get a little bit of a skirmish in the early game. If Arthas is able to get a decent amount of value onto one of the squishies, they could have kill potential here early with Greymane as well.
Already, Fury taking a lot of damage, but a nice route. They're connecting on Fan, enabling Michael Udall to go in and get that big cleave in with Greymane. And that orb hits 3 targets, doing some very nice damage in this early skirmish.
Teams are going to rotate. Keep in mind, Greymane is actually waiting for Sonya to make the rotation, hoping a squishy would actually make a poor one and try and take that 1v1, but she's going to play a little bit safer in her rotations. Fan is still very low. He's actually not going to reveal himself, knowing she has to tap the well, so maybe struggling in that 1v1 a little bit, and they're going to just keep up the 1-4, which is pretty common when it comes to this map.
Yeah, well, the rotations are just continuing back and forth, trying to find that out-of-place position, and the Stormbolt completely whipping there from McIntyre as Fury decides to back on off. That is a long cooldown, and Kenma is getting focused on very nicely here by Crowan.
Yeah, and they're actually winning in the wave clear for Gale Force eSports. Tacitor is complementing that along with Arthas a little bit. McIntyre is going to get the stun onto Akaface, but obviously Karzim's mobility is something that usually doesn't lead to a kill unless he's burnt his dashes already. The rotations here from Gale Force are actually winning, even when they keep Karzim in the solo lane so far, just because there isn't too much of a great wave clear. I love the zoning as well from Gale Force, making sure they can't make it up there. It's not a huge victory, but it is a small one in the sense it denies a little bit of the ability to clear to the shrine.
Okay, well, we do have that first shrine. It will be a mortar shrine in the top lane. The teams will make their way up there slowly, but of course, we actually have Naventic in position well before Gale Force, who are maintaining a strong presence, potentially giving this up.
Yeah, they are moving to the bottom lane to get some pressure down here while the Shrine's on the top half. Fan will be able to clear that. Sonya's one of the best when it comes to the Shrines. And the pressure they're getting on the bot lane is not worth for what they've done so far, especially considering that they're moving into a global, now making this rotation 20 skeletal defenders behind. Meanwhile, Falstad is going to make that rotation. If they do not make this kill happen within the next couple of seconds, they're going to be in a bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, they're halfway to where they want to be. Falstad is now flying up after getting that additional wave of soak, and Fury is taking so much damage, has to back away from the huge damage of Zuna and Tychus. The bigger they are.
Yeah, the bigger they are. He pulls it out, and he had no pressure on him. Tychus just standing there wailing on Gale Force, or on Fury specifically, ripping his health pool apart. And guess what? Now 10 behind on the skeletal defenders already. Meanwhile, Gale Force still did commit all the resources up here. They're trying to make something happen. Big Impact gets hit by the Howling Blast. He is going to be taken out. The one reset is going to happen. Zuna as well is taking damage, but they're only 6 away. Naventic still might be able to get the poke here with Fan.
This is why you see Crow and Fury and Raffle just kind of doing their best to zone while they have the other two members cleaning them up. Now, Michael Udall on that gray main can chunk through those skeletal defenders rather quickly. You see they've already gotten up to 21, and they've denied anyone from Naventic from getting near that point for a few seconds.
Yeah, gray main is trying to make something happen here, getting the poke. Now they're going to move in, trying to secure the last of the 6 here. One's going to go down 5, 4, 3 is only left for Naventic to be able to pick this up. It will be going in the hands of Naventic here. Gale Force eSports cannot make it happen for the time being.
Well, they did their best to try to even things out, and they've actually maintained a slight experience lead, which is a big victory for them considering Falstad did get that extra soak in the bottom lane. But now this Arcane Punisher is marching in, and these towers are very likely going down.
Yeah, they will be able to get a decent amount of soak as well with Tats that are making the rotations. So far, very standard Infernal Shrines. Gale Force definitely making a little bit too late of rotation. Getting onto Kenma here, though. He may be going down. He's going to be able to get the disengage auto attack. There it is.
The last hit there from Michael Udall picks up the kill on Kenma, who has been that focus point for Gale Force all game long. Yeah,
with the aggression that you know that comes out of Kenma, it's actually really rough when dealing with the Arthas, right? He's going to go and try and get the bite, but Howling Blast and a little bit of the slow coming out from Arthas is making it so he's not able to get that free harass that he's used to here. So right now, Gale Force is definitely playing it well. They do have 2 kills, losing the first Punisher, but that is not too big of a deal considering they don't scale too well.
Yeah, I mean, it gave Naventic a little bit of experience from those structures, but it is dead even at this point. Level 7 to level 7 so far in this game. And now we have Zuna picking up that quarterback, so it's going to give the additional range, that free poke to constantly pick off clumps of the skeletal defenders in the entire objective phase.
Especially once he hits 16, getting the max health there. Udall is going to be going down at this point. It's not going to even be close.
Big pick off there for Naventic.
Very well done, but at the same time, they're losing double Merc control on the bottom half of the map. Gale Force is actually not sieging any structure directly, so what Naventic's going to be able to do is take out those structures and then make the rotation and get the clear. I do think they slightly come out on top of this just because they got on top of the siege first. It's actually a general rule of thumb in Heroes of the Storm. If you're the team pushing first, it's almost always a better situation than your opponent. So yeah, they do come out winning slightly ahead in this trade, but for the most part, it's still not too far in either direction.
Okay, well, we see the Khazra camp being cleaned up rather quickly. The top 4 did survive as Michael Udall was able to bully that Sonya away, and it's just the small skirmish in the mid, with Naventic having about a half-level lead nearly.
Yeah, and Sonya is in the upper half of the map. Neither of the Shaman camps are being controlled for the time being. I think you can... I'm surprised Falstad didn't make the rotation to the upper half of the map, so they're going to be both moving to the Shrine rather quickly. McIntyre is going to get sniffed out here by Fury, but it's not going to matter. He has that Dwarf Toss still up.
Big damage going in, though. Fan is stepping forward, bullying them back. That's going to force Fury to tap the well and re-engage here in the fight, allowing Naventic to once again get a nice early start, picking up about 10 of those skeletal defenders.
Yeah, they are in a pretty position for the time being, and they're winning the race to 10 as well. Decent harass coming out to Crow, and McIntyre is going to be collapsed on, but he will Dwarf Toss out of there. 15, excuse me, has already picked up for Naventic here on the Shrine, and a slight XP lead.
Yeah, not as strong of a start as the first one here on the side of Naventic, but still a nice lead. We do see Gale Force fighting their way back on in. Both teams are closing on the level 10, but it's not an immediate threat for either side, which is why you don't see anyone conceding their positioning.
Yeah, and this chokehold is where Arthas is going to really thrive if they all move in together. McIntyre's doing a good job zoning, but Fan is all their wave clear, so he needs to be moving through this chokehold to get something happening. Great job from Big Impact getting at that Q there to steal a majority of the skeletal defenders here.
34 right now, 35. Naventic just needs 3 more of those skeletal defenders to secure another one, but we do see Gale Force trying to push them back. One Boomerang's hit can secure it, and yes, they get the Punisher once again.
But Fan's being slowed. Cleanse Out comes out to try and keep him alive. The disengage from Michael Udall again, be able to secure a kill here. Punisher is going to be picked up. They don't want to show here and force the bait. Akaface making the smart choice there. Almost risked it. Got stun out there. Possibly a kill, but more than anything, it would have stopped the cooldown for the leap, which now would get bonus damage on it already because the ammo was drained. So really heads up there, making a small decision.
Well, I mean, the experience still rather even at this point, but this Punisher, having back-to-back Punishers will slowly but surely give you that structural advantage. Yes, there is still a bit of an experience bank waiting in the structures, but Raffle is getting very low here from the damage of Big Impact.
He's got to dodge this Q. Oh, right. He's going to be all right in this situation. Now Sonya as well, taking the Shaman camp for the time being. Won't be timed with any major map objective, but the pressure is always appealing to have. when you are on this map. Structurally, the integrity of all the teams are relatively even as well. It's very, very close here so far in this matchup. I do think that as it goes on, it should get a little bit better for Gale Force eSports. At the same time, Tychus only becomes a monster as this game proceeds to move on. And also, the Gust is something to worry about because when Ghouls is popped, that's all the survivability for Arthas for the most of the time. And if it's just gusted away, you wait it out, it's just like, he might be a really easy target for Tychus to pick off at that point.
It's a great response to Army of the Dead in those situations when you burn the Gust for it. And Big Impact will be bullied back from Crow and just throwing out everything he has as he's trying to defend this fallen Shaman camp. Experience-wise, though, Gale Force has maintained an experience lead for the most part in this game, even though they have lost the objective twice. And really, I mean, there is a small kill disparity in their favor, but I think they've had slightly better soak.
They have done a good job maintaining the soak, and they are losing a little bit of damage on the front walls and their forts for the most part. But yeah, they've done a good job.
Michael Udall, Murden dives in back there, gets the Storm Bolt, and that is one dead Worgen here in the top lane as the 3-man collapse will not only get Michael Udall, but the fort as well.
That's a good job coming off them. The Gus actually zoning a little bit of miscommunication. Maybe Akaface gets stunned out, but he will Radiant dash away. He has another one in store. The Shaman camp will now be taken for Naventic, getting a double camp in the upper half. That's going to draw a lot of resource from Gale Force here. They're going to force this 4 versus 5 here with Arthas coming out.
A big Ancestral and Avatar use to keep McIntyre alive in the front. The Force will trying to push people away, and Fury's getting burned down from that drill, but the support from the Ghouls is enough. Fallen Camp is picked up, and both teams will
disengage.
Yes, yeah. That's the word.
It's a thing that comes after the wolf form. You just like, you know, you disengage. That was a very interesting choice coming out from Gale Force eSports. Obviously a 4 versus 5 onto the map objective. I think they expected to be able to get better isolation out of the 7-sided strike. But now they are kind of on the back foot. They don't have any major heroics, or at least Arthas does not have any major heroics, so he's going to be dependent on his team to be able to keep him alive. 7-sided strike is a very short cooldown, soon to be back up here. While the majority of the heroics are actually down for Naventic, so that might be a point that Gale Force can actually abuse.
It's just Army of the Dead that's lacking here, and yeah, I mean, Fury did use that to great success to stay alive in the last situation, but without that, it could be dicey. McIntyre in the front, Udall is going deep. Zuna gets incredibly low, but they managed to peel at the last moment, barely keeping him up. We do see many of the skeletal defenders now going the way in favor of Gale Force, forcing Zuna back, and with that heart, they might finally have a Punisher in their favor.
Yeah, go for the throat was used, and just almost an inch away there, it felt like, on Zuna's health bars to be able to get the reset. They will now secure their first Punisher for Gale Force eSports. They are a little bit short when it comes to the heroics for the time being. It's only going to be threatening the fort. Greymane is actually backed out already, showing that he has more interest in Soak. Now making the rotation here. Free harassment coming out on the Punisher. Interesting choice to move for that Soak, but now collapse towards mid from Gale Force.
Yeah, Udall is here. Fan is not the healthiest in the top half, but he does not quite have that go for the throat ready yet. So he's going to play a little bit more passively than you might expect from a Greymane as this Punisher gets its final shots off. But Big Impact gets picked off.
Big Impact is positioning. That's the second time it really feels like he was kind of caught out, and Gale Force is doing a great job mixed between Fury, Crowan, and Mike Udall. It seems like they're getting a lot of DPS out onto those targets now. With one man down, they're being aggressive, looking to try and make something happen. Hopefully looking to maybe get a front wall here and a little bit of structure damage. But this is now kind of the first time we've had a momentum swing going in the side of GFE.
All right, well, we do have that Trail of Frost here for Arthas, relentless on the Kharazim in this matchup. And the Tychus did end going for it. That's the stuff.
That's the stuff. Is such a great talent. It makes Azuna going to be a little bit more tanky and do a lot of damage to that front line. If Arthas decides to get on him, he can just kind of stand still and be like, hey, I can out-trade you here in this situation, and for the most case. But now Merc pressure is going to be picked up all over the map here, around a level lead advantage for Gale Force eSports, and structurally now being pretty much dead even between these two teams. Gale Force has done a really good job so far in this game. I was surprised they were able to capitalize on the lack of heroics. I mean, I feel like Naventic overcommitted when it came to just getting a camp, and that came to punish when it came to the Punisher. I mean, you know, a little redundant, but...
Right. Well, you know, right now we do have, like you said, that full level lead just about on the side of Gale Force. Not quite another shrine yet, but we have this great poke coming out from Crowan. Eliminating this bottom tower is going to set them up so nicely as they start to close in on level 16 with that level advantage going into the next shrine, and it could really enable them for a pretty much guaranteed Punisher if Naventic is this far behind.
Naventic now taking the Shaman camp. That should work around the next shrine spawn, because I believe it's going to be in the next about 30 seconds here. We'll see another shrine popping up, and if it's on the bottom half of the map, it will gain them a little bit of value. Greymane's already in position. It's on the upper half here, so it should be a free clear. 16 is the race is on, really. The flight from Big Impact isn't going to be in a good enough position, and Zuna taking a lot of damage from Crowan.
You know Big Impact wanted to get a Gust there, but he immediately realized he could not get it, and he actually barrel rolled just to ensure that he did not get picked as he did earlier.
So now, Gale eSports closing in on 16. They do not want to take this fight on the Shrine until they do, which is why you see Naventic actually posturing in the Shrub. They want to force the fight before their opponents get 16. It should be able to get spotted out here by Tassadar. They should understand the circumstances. This is not a surprising situation to be in. They're going to wait for the 16, be very aggressive at that point, and usually lock in a Punisher here for their team. But this is actually telling. Naventic is actually starting the Shrine here. Rather than soaking the side lanes to catch up in XP, there's a lot of XP in mid and stuff, and they actually start it. All right,
we have evasive shielding, and this is actually a pretty interesting talent being picked up here. Yeah, just to give that Arthas that crazy engage with his Frozen Tempest, having that remorseless Winter picked up at level 16.
Naventic is now setting aside only Falstad to get the soak. With only 8 skeletal defenders, I think it's really unrealistic for them to expect to be able to get 16 in this amount of time unless Gale doesn't commit a decent amount of resources onto the Shrine here. Maybe trying to bite off a little bit more than they can chew. Gale now should be able to make an aggressive move here with a flank from McIntyre. Still not 16, gets isolated, does get the Dwarf Toss out.
Okay, we do see Crowan being pressured by Zuna in the back, but Zuna's pretty far forward. Huge missiles going in with that Disintegrate, but the Gust to force that leaving away. Fan will get a big Ancestral, but the Drill is down, forcing Gale away. And Raffle trying to trade out will get the last-minute Dimensional Shift. The reset's there for leaving, giving huge power to Crowan, who melts through 2. McIntyre's going to fall as well. Suddenly it's a 3-0 in favor of Gale Force.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know what Naventic was thinking in that type of situation. They looked like, okay, so that was a situation where they were essentially, they worried about the Shrine. They said, we're going to take the fight 15 to 16. Then they half committed, took Falstad into mid saying, we don't want to take that fight. Then re-rotated and said, we're going to take that fight. Now, you can tell their thought process is definitely almost confused, I guess.
Right.
They don't know exactly the situation that they're in or how they want to approach it.
Just look at Zuna's position there in general. He was so far forward thinking they had the advantage there, but it really did not end up being that way.
Yeah, and I feel like they're expressing these kind of concerns through their positioning alone when it comes to their rotations overall here. But Gale has done a phenomenal job to be able to capitalize as best they can, taking out the sidewall here, maybe try and get some kind of capitalization. There goes on to Zuna, the Howling Blast. That's going to be it for him.
Is doing huge damage, and Zuna just gets obliterated there. This Punisher is still almost full health with a 2-level lead right now for Gale Force.
Zuna going down means this keep is most likely going to be falling as well. There's very little tools left for Naventic to be able to defend it at this time. The leap is going to come out, the Dwarf Toss, but the isolation on the camera, Crowan getting a lot of damage. He's going to be falling down.
Picks up the kill with the Disintegrate, and this is a keep going down very quickly. This game looked dead even, but suddenly one team fight, and Gale Force has turned it up. This core is under siege. Big Impact goes down like nothing, and 3 members are down on the side of Naventic. Gale Force might close it out here.
That's gonna be it. With that elimination on the Falstad, Tyka's gonna spawn. They have no defensive tools whatsoever. They are gonna win game number 1 against Naventic very convincingly. What just happened?
Wow. I mean, this is it. They turned up the heat in Gale Force. Level 16 advantage going into that Shrine. They found an opportunity, and Naventic just fell apart.
Every single mistake Naventic made, Gale Force perfectly capitalized on. Almost from about this point on, they perfectly capitalized. Taking this fight 15 into 16, Zuna deciding to dive the backline there, having no defensive tools, and he is going to be punished for it at this point in time. Goodness, I am blown away from Gale Force after that match. They did have the early struggles I expected them to have, but to be completely honest, I didn't think that they would do so well in the back half of this game.
This is why you don't give Crowan that Li Ming, because when he starts to get those resets, he is just disastrous. I mean, those Disintegrates always getting the max value. That Death Boil just to top it off there for that kill on Kenma pretty much secured the win. Like, it already looked good, but that was like insult to injury.
I mean, as an Arthas, I can tell you that's probably one of the most satisfying kills in the game. Just like that max range Death Coil, especially if they have a gap closer and they run away with it, right? Like, you're just like, feels good, man.
You just watch it traveling and you know it's going to happen. You're just sitting there smiling like a kid in a candy store. And wow, Battlefield of Eternity. We already have our next map decided here between these two teams. This is the map Naventic thrives on, for sure.
I agree with you wholeheartedly when they're on the same page.
Kenma has a very peculiar face on his face right now.
I mean, the exact same problems that I feel like we saw when facing against Brainpower came out in that match, but the better team, Gale Force, was able to capitalize on those mistakes where Brainpower wasn't going to be able to. So much so that when that game was almost dead even for a high majority of it, it went from like 0 to 100 within about one Punisher.
I will say, though, the pickup of Falstad did not work for Naventic. Right?
Yes.
Big E, he's a very strong player, but his Falstad, I wasn't feeling it there. I feel like if they had just not given Falstad, let Ruffle have the Falstad as he normally would pick up, it would have looked a lot better for Naventic.
I agree. I would argue also it feels like Zuna and Tychus is overly aggressive in positioning.
Yeah,
and we never once have seen them pair that with a Tassadar, which is usually the Korean approach to Tychus and what we know Naventic really looks toward when it comes to a majority of their drafting decisions here. But now Naventic is going to be first pick. Keep in mind, that means that Gale Force decided to take them to Battlefield of Eternity, a map that Naventic is known for, showing that they are very confident here.
Yeah, bring them to their home turf, show them what they can do. The question is here, if we just think back to DreamHack Austin, this is when we started to see Cloud9 do a lot of these mega stun comps. And I know Gale Force is capable of doing similar styles, but do they have something like that as a pocket strat that they've been waiting to pull out on a map like this? Tyrande has had a very poor win rate in this tournament, but she is phenomenal with that Hunter's Mark for the racing of those Immortals here.
Not only the racing of the Immortals, this map has some of the least important wave clear, being the only 2 million map, right? Wave clear drops in value for a majority of the heroes that have it. It's not bad to have by any means. A wave clear is always a beneficial thing, but it's less valued here, so that's why she has such a high spike. We are going to see a Tassadar pan coming out from Naventic here. I don't think Gale Force is going to let the Illidan go through. If they do, I actually expect Naventic to possibly just pick the Rhaegar, let them have the Illidan with nothing to baby it, and just kill it. Yeah. I actually wouldn't be surprised that Tassadar ban. There are a lot of high other priorities, as you said, like the Tassadar. Li Ming is huge on this map, and with how convincing I feel like Krillin played in that last game, that also could be something Naventic's looking to do. But after being in a sketchy situation, letting the God comp, if you will, go through on the last draft for Gale Force, I don't know if they're willing to let Naventic have it.
Wow, and they respect the Tyrande. They just straight up say, you know what, we don't want to have to think about that as a threat in general. We want to play straight up. That just changes the ballpark as to the way that you need to focus on the Immortals, burn, and raise. And Naventic do go for that early task or Illidan.
So Gale Force is going to go Rhaegar, I think, almost 100%, and they're going to go the Li Ming as well. I was going to say it's either Li Ming or Sonya for them. Sonya is a great response and also does well in the
Why not just grab Rhaegar right now?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way they let the Rhaegar go through past this point because they don't want Naventic to be able to have that large amount of DPS. You know they're probably concerned about other things. Maybe ETC could be one because he does a great job with his passive and the DPS. They're waiting long enough that they might let it through.
If they grab Rhaegar, they almost just force an Uther, like an early Uther on the side of Naventic, and that's...
Yeah, or it could... Yeah, I agree with you. It could force that, and I personally think that is a pretty strong power play here. The amount of time Gale Force is putting in this situation, I think they're going to let the Rhaegar go through.
Really? Well, it's definitely an option.
No,
okay, they lock in the Rhaegar here on the side of Gale Force. We do have 2 more picks here for Naventic before we go into the second ban.
Greymane is an option and probably high prio. He does a very good job when it comes to this map.
If they don't pick Greymane, they almost have to ban him just because, like, you think about Greymane and Li Ming and the explosion. Okay, KT and Uther.
So they get the Uther. It's pretty much a must-have when you have the Illidan on your team. You need a burst healer, somebody who can keep you alive as you're diving onto the back line. And they also remove the Kael'thas here.
Zuna thinks he's the best Kael'thas in the world. When they were down and out in the grand finals of DreamHack Austin, Zuna hopped onto the Kael'thas and he made the plays happen.
I mean, he put up a really solid argument for the last time that we put him onto this map, hitting a lot of great gravity lapses. At the same time, Kael'thas has been nerfed since then, and that build that he runs typically is not nearly as effective in these situations. So, and you talked about it a bit earlier, Greymane ban is pretty much a kind of a must-have if they didn't pick it in that rotation. So,
alrighty, well, we are going into the next picks here on the side of Gale Force.
Gale Force goes with the Murden and goes with the Falstad. No surprise, that's comfort picks across the board for them in this situation. I don't know how I feel about the Falstad. It is, again, it's definitely a heavy comfort. They showed signs of success with this style of composition against Astral Authority. Now, Naventic with a response. They need a tank. ETC has been banned, so this is going to be an option for them. Where are they going to go with their tanks? They go with Sylve, not surprising.
I could see it being Arthas or a noob, honestly.
I think it's going to be Arthas.
Johanna is so subpar in this map.
I think it's going to be Arthas with Syndragosa, personally.
the double lockdown, Sylvanas and Syndragosa that just shut off all the buildings?
I guess maybe not, but I don't know. So the reason I like Syndragosa in this situation specifically is actually because you're not only going to gain value when it comes to the Immortal, but it's more than anything, Illidan needs to chase.
Yeah,
he needs to chase. So what you do is you just disable everything in the back, and then you put yourself in a position. But instead, they go with a double dive-oriented composition.
I like this.
It is actually appealing. I feel like
I want to see Cocoon. I really want to see Cocoon in this. We've been seeing so much of the Swarm, and I think Cocoon can have huge impacts in these scenarios.
Yeah, it could. It definitely could have a large impact in this game.
Maybe even a big impact?
I was trying not to.
I'm sorry. Well, we are here for the final pick in Gale Force, and they're actually going for that Lunara, who just, I mean, honestly, when it comes to that damage on the Immortal, arguably the top DPS output versus a PvE unit.
Gale Force right now has a pretty solid composition. Naventic has, I mean, a very much an all-in style composition. They're going to dive with Illidan, like a new Barak, Epicenter, get the damage on the backline, have 2 focus targets. I don't think they could web wrap. You are correct. I don't think they will, but it's definitely something they have an opportunity to do.
I mean, they just have like the option to really dismantle their opponents with a dive. You think of the Wailing with the Burrow Charge paired with Epicenter. You Cocoon the Rhaegar as you do this, and Illidan's dancing all around the team. It's definitely like a hard engage potential. But the great thing is here is they don't even it's not even a guarantee. They don't have to do that. They have the options.
They definitely have the options in the situation. I'm trying to consider who wins the race if they just kind of go blow for blow. Obviously, Li Ming, as she hits that Seeker Mirror Ball era, she's going to be spiking very hard, especially with the nerf onto Sun King's Fury.
I think late game,
and Lunara, Nature's Calling.
Race,
when it comes to the race, in the early game, though, it's a little bit closer. I still think Gale Force definitely has the DPS, especially in the mid game. Once you hit the mid game, I think they have it. So Naventic, it'll be interesting if they go with more of the aggressive or defensive approach to this match.
Yeah, I actually have no idea how they're going to do this. I think they're probably going to try to PvE as much as they can.
Yeah.
But here they are. They've locked in their heroes. Kenma will be playing Uther. Big impact on Sylvanas. Zuna on the Kill Thos. McIntyre playing the Anubarak. And Fan on Illidan for Team Naventic.
And for Gale Force eSports, already 1 up in this series. In the best of 5, Fury is going to be on the Murden. Rafacopter on Lunara. Mike Udall is going to be on the Falset. Akaface on Rhaegar. And Crowan on the Li Ming once more.
His Li Ming is becoming legendary at this point.
I'm pretty sure he 100-0'd, like almost like globaled, it felt like, Falstad in the last match.
Yeah, Big Impact just kind of melted from the power of Li Ming, who then gets the resets and then melts more things in her path. All right, taking a look at the early game talents here.
Nothing too surprising.
Dampen Magic is like really such a powerful talent that is making a new Barak make waves in the new rework.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well in this tournament specifically here.
Just think about Dampen Magic versus Falstad, Li Ming, and Lunara. Like, that's going to be huge in this game.
Yeah, and Li Ming definitely struggles when the Beetles are spawning to be able to hit her combos onto her opponents effectively. Zuna and friends are already moving in to get a front wall here. Mike Udall is going to be able to try and defend, but it's only him by himself, so that's going to be a free turret already going down for Naventic. It is a minor win, not colossal, but definitely influential. Fawcett now rotating. They know the 4-man's going to be on bottom. He's going to be able to get up top there. Fawcett should do decent in that 1v1 as long as he's able to hit his Q consistently and not push out the wave too far. He'll be all right in that 1v1 for the most part.
Yeah, interesting to see that they actually put Michael Udall on the Falstad, and then they have Raffle playing as the Lunara. Yes, Big Impact got very low from that explosion, and Zuna has to be careful as Crowan is just burning through the health bars of Naventic. Zuna's actually in a bad spot, but a beautiful body block from Mac.
Yeah, that was a great job. The tank being able to wear the damage to save Zuna, but my goodness, Crowan is being an absolute monster on the Li Ming here in this matchup. He just seems to hit every single skill shot against his opponents.
In the top lane, Illidan is so far winning that fight as Falstad's down to about half health, and of course Fan has tons of self-sustain on that hero. Zuna waiting to see if Michael Udall steps forward, but Michael will be going back to base to just replenish his health.
Yeah, he has a wave pushed out a little bit as well, so that makes him pretty easy to zone. But Gale Force does recognize that there are 3 people on the bottom of the map, and they're trying to play accordingly. He does burn his flight, though, in the process. They aren't getting any value out of the Siege as well in the bottom half, so it's a really good choice, laning-wise at least, coming up from Gale Force so far in this matchup.
Okay, 5 seconds till we have those Immortals up. Like we mentioned, Gale Force seems to have the better race potential in general, especially once we get to the later portions of the game. So we should see Naventic go for the race maybe initially, but they're going to definitely try to find those picks. Immediately, McIntyre, Big Impact starting on this bottom Immortal.
Meanwhile, in the upper half, Crone actually gets a blink over the wall. Fan is going in very deep here to get the defense. Both the teams have gotten it down roughly to 75–80% on the Immortal. Nature's Calling has not come into play quite yet, so Lunara is not going to be able to eat it. The health bars too much.
Yeah, all right, so Fury just scouted out Mac. Mac was looking for that big burrow charge engage onto the backline because that Lunara is very squishy. If they can get the dive, the follow-up with the Gravity Lab steal, they can absolutely melt that hero. But we have seen the Kalefoss rotate down to the bottom Immortal to try to burn through the health bar, but it looks like Gale Force will get it, and Lunara goes down.
Yeah, that's the dive comp that they have for Naventic. So we've seen a lot of new Barak in this tournament, guys, but one thing that there should be kind of broken down, but the aggression, actually, I'll get to this a bit later. Dwarf Plus is still available, so he should be fine in the situation. The composition that we see Naventic running it in compared to some of the others is Naventic is a very dive-centric composition, so it's not that a new Barak is solo tanking, it's more of like we're dive buddies, right? Like you just create so much havoc and pressure on the backline. You have to kill a noob, but you also have to kill Illidan. So you're in a lose-lose situation. When you group to get on one, you're going to hit a Wailing Arrow. So I definitely expect, as you saw, the minute they get on one target, all in them, right? Like all the melees just dive onto the single target. That is going to be what Naventic is, their ideal team fight will be based around that concept.
Well, even with that one kill onto Lunara that we saw, the damage output is just far higher when it comes to the PvE of the Immortal. And Gale Force will pick up the first Immortal of the game with about 20% shielding. So this is going to be their time to shine, try to get a big push in as we see the Naventic mounting a 4-man defense.
All right, so 25% shield. Falset is still maintaining the 1v1. Nature's Calling is still not going to be picked up quite yet, so we're in a situation where the siege is not too beneficial. Udal is struggling in the 1v1 against Fan here. He does have the barrel roll out, but he could just no longer be able to deal with that laning matchup. Illidan is one of the better 1v1s. It's actually interesting. Illidan either just completely dominates the matchup, or he just seems to struggle. He's a very weird laner here, but the aggression coming out in the bottom half, Fury getting caught out. He gets interrupted almost, it looked like. He does get knocked up though. He will be able to dwarf toss out. That was interesting. I actually never seen that when
he has a new ability called Dwarf Bounce.
Yeah, Dwarf Bounce. It's when the impale comes in, it looks like he's starting his toss, but that's not the case. Gravity Lab's gonna miss for Zuno though.
Okay, well, Rafflecopter barely dodged that Gravity Labs that did come in, but did not get connected. But Fan is going to get picked up here in the top lane with a nice dwarf toss in from Fury, picking up that kill.
Great job getting minor momentum here for Gale Force eSports. Zuna, that's another Gravity Labs miss. We talked about how he felt like he was the best Kalefoss, and last time we saw him on this map specifically, I would argue he was largely because he didn't seem to miss one. So comparing the matchup between those two games, it very much feels like he's kind of on a different page here. The entire team seems a little bit torn.
Dread, what do you think about the Spirit Walker's Grace here on Rhaegar rather than the just the mana regen?
So the thought process behind this is you're not going to remain. So you're against Lunara. I expect him to move into kind of that into Tidal Waves at 13 to get that AoE healing. Yeah, but if you don't stay in Wolf form in this map as nearly as much as you do the others, right? So you don't get any value out of going Feral Heart. So he's going to put himself, he knows he's going to be spamming Q. The most cost-effective mana reduction talent he can take is actually Spirit Walker's Grace at 4. So that was really heads up. He's already adapting his build up in this matchup. Actually, he's not even against Lunara. That was my bad. I, for some reason, thought that was Kinma.
All right, well, Nature's Calling has been, it's all good. Nature's Calling has been picked up here, actually Seeker as well. So we were talking about the Q build of Li Ming being phenomenal for just poking down through the health bars of the Immortals, especially once Mirror Ball is picked up in the late game.
But you still gain value just because of the map with that talent choice, but it's not nearly as much as I wouldn't Naventic would have if that was their option. That is interesting. I didn't think that adaptation would come from Aquaface here, but now Naventic has a huge lead here when it comes to the Immortal for the time being. Yeah. Getting a lot of DPS there. Crone is yet to get any effectiveness. It seems like in the poke, as I say that, he does land an orb on the Fan. Fan's getting rotated on by Fury, and they're slowly getting them off, but guess what? Naventic did get the phase.
Yeah, they managed to turn to the halftime show. Zuno's getting burst down in the top, though, with a big orb coming through, picking him up early in this fight. The focus now on Kenma. 2 down. The brothers have fallen, and Gale Force will start working on that Immortal.
Oh my goodness, the 1v1. He has no haunted wave. He does actually dodge that as well.
The ghost Kenma not able to get enough heals, and Biggie goes down.
There's no Q from Mike Udall. He's going to be able to chase it. Don't think. Yeah, he's going to hit it. And the charge. He's going to get it. Fan might be able to clean up this 1v1. He can fly out if he needs to. Meanwhile, guess what? Nature's Cooling is doing work onto the Immortal. They're already getting it down. 3k health left. It's going to be falling. I'm going to be honest. Crowan, I said Fan was the best Li Ming in A, but I was wrong about that.
Oh, man.
He's putting on a show right now.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
you know, I mean, he's like Oprah with it. He's like, you get an orb, and you get an orb. He just doesn't stop.
In the top lane, that is going to be a more than half shield Immortal pushing this with the fort nearly down already. But Michael Udall fighting Fan here in the bottom, very low, gets back to his fort, and the Gus comes out as level 10 is barely attained.
That was really well done. Heads up pickup coming out from Mike Udall. Meanwhile, the fort's going to be falling in the upper half of the map. They have a very good siege composition with Lunara at this point. Obviously, she can rip apart structures with no 10 picked up for Naventic. I would like to see Falstead actually rotating top, maximizing the effectiveness out of their Immortal at this point. There you go. He does get the flight coming up here now, getting DPS, maybe looking towards the sidewall to try and make something happen with an early aggressive play here. Fury is getting poked rather low.
Yeah, but this is a massive experience disparity.
Yes.
I mean, it's 11-8 right now, just about level 9 for Naventic, but without the heroics, they are just getting bullied so very hard. This Immortal still sitting at about half health, already now working on a keep. Sub 8 minutes. Gale Force dominating the game, but Murden will be burned through. The Avatar and Essential keeps him alive.
He is able to survive. That was a lot of heroics burnt in a situation. They don't have 10 yet, so you see Gale Force eSports is still trying to capitalize on this situation, get that keep as best they can. Lunar is out of mana, actually. She cannot throw her Thornwood Vines onto it, abuse her passive at all. But the knockup, Gravity Lapse is going to hit. McIntyre with the follow-up there. Udall and friends are backing out. They burn the Gus. Kenma will not be able to get a stun, and that looks like it's going to be a 1-for-0 here. Meanwhile, Fan has been beating on the fort and should be able to get it for his team.
Okay, well, that was a big combo, getting that Gravity Lance onto Lunar, enabling that kill, saving their keep for the time being, but is down to about 20% of his health, and Fan will get this pickup with his team here to safely escort him out. So Naventic evening up the experience nicely, but that keep is going to be a big, risky situation for them all game long. Falstad, Lunara, they might be able to try to sneak up there at one point in the game and just try to slowly poke it down. A few autos from Lunara is going to be a big issue for that keep.
Yeah, and actually, Gale Force eSports, we'll worry about it a little bit if their Immortal goes with a high amount of shields, but if the next one has an absurd amount of shields, they have a really interesting choice when it comes to their decision-making. They can actually posture to threaten a keep and do this weird dancing chokehold, especially with Falstead with the Gus. So we'll see if they get themselves in that pretty of a situation, but for now, Naventic is looking to rotate on top. I like this patience from Michael Udall here. You see him, he knows he doesn't need to risk anything. He's going to wait it out. It's not worth possibly getting picked off.
Okay, top Cosmic Camp is nice here for Naventic. Just make sure that there's not going to be a threat for them in the top lane, and we're about 10 seconds from the Immortals to be spawning. Now that the heroics are here, this is the first team fight where both teams have their heroics. Do you think Naventic has a better shot in these engagements?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Illidan suddenly becomes far more important. A new Barak as well. They have way more kill potential, and they become far more chaotic to be able to baby the Illidan, get this weird double dive-centric composition. So they have what it takes in this situation. They need to make sure they don't get pokes. The Li Ming poke obviously has been detrimental, but Lunar is going to get caught out. That was a great cleanse and Ancestral coming out. Meanwhile, the Gravity Lapse misses. Zuna's out of position.
But the Divine Shield is going to keep Zuna alive for right now. McIntyre already popping that Locust one, but Fan is going deep on Aquaface, who has spent all of his cooldowns, and he does end up going down to the Illidan. But Zuna will fall in the top to Fury on Murden. Murden will fall, but the big trades coming in from Crowan, getting the resets. And Raffle trading trades everywhere left and right, but Fan is turning up the heat. The shields are here with that evasion, trying to get the pick up, but Crowan teleporting over the wall.
He does get the teleport over the wall if Mike Udall was able to hit a Q there, but guess what? The Burrow combo is going to hit. He does have it, but Fan might be going down. He does have Meta up at this point. He's going to be fine. He was waiting for the Metamorphosis.
Okay, ends up being a favorable trade here for Naventic, but barely. They need to be very fearful of Crowan's Li Ming. If he resets, he will snowball very quickly. We see McIntyre popping that dampened magic, keeping himself sustained for now, and Kenma's actually leaving the fight, trying to retap that mana pool.
Yeah, and the Burrow comes out. Gravity Lapse is going to hit. The stun doesn't manage to land onto anybody yet. The Immortal now slowly falling. It's going to be at the 75% mark. McIntyre is backing out. A camp has been sieging on the upper half of the map for Gale, against Gale Force. I guess, I mean, it's only one little guy,
but Naventic needs 13, so that's why we see them rotating up. They're giving up their position here in the center of the map, as Kenma did go back to base. Anub just went back as well. 13 around the corner. They cannot fight until then, but we actually have Crowan going back as well.
Yeah, he needed the mana in this situation, which is why he decided to back out here. For now, they're in a fine position for both of these teams. It's pretty much whoever takes the next team fight is going to be in a very controlling position.
Biggie.
Fan and friends get on a great, actually self-cleanse. Will the Forsaken coming out there to keep himself alive.
Okay, Zuna is incredibly low from that poison that came through, but Fury is also backing away. The Gust hitting absolutely nothing as we see Fan was able to dodge it, and a two-man Willing Arrow securing the kill on Fallset. They're now focusing Akaface. That's 2 down on the side of Gale Force, and Naventic has complete dominance of the Immortals.
And the positioning of the Immortals now allows a little bit for Gale Force to possibly be able to defend, but if they mess up at all...
Oh my goodness, Crone getting some huge damage on McIntyre, but the heals are there in time from Kenma.
If they get a little bit of DPS, Kenma's the only one defending, which he can't do too much on his own. We'll see if Gale Force recognizes this out, actually. They get a little damage, but they realize that the Immortal's more important. Nature's Calling coming into play. Seeker's trying to get the DPS out as well. They actually get a large amount of removal from the shields. They're only using Kenva as a defense tool. I feel it was a pretty big mistake. If they made that rotation and set 2 people, somebody who actually has kill potential with Kenma, they would have been able to deter a lot more damage for them. So Gale Force heads up, understanding their circumstances, but now they have to get rid of an Immortal.
With a Sylvanas that can really deny the structures all of that DPS output onto the Immortal as well. So we'll see exactly how much damage Naventic can do. Now this is the last fort remaining on the side of Gale Force. They want to open up this lane because their lane is so very weak. This is a big moment to see exactly how much they can get done.
Yeah, and it's wailing down here. A great Nubrak Impale coming into Fury. Fan is getting dancing around. A really good juke, actually, from Fury as well from the Gravity Labs for the time being. Great stun. They're going
McIntyre's getting blown up. The Burrow barely keeping himself alive. Zuna is now way too far forward as a noob had to back away.
Wow.
And Fury is on the case, but the Divine Shield at the last moment trying to keep alive. The Locust Swarm topping off that Nubrak, and the Ancestral tops off Fury. Wailing in the back. Is it enough for Biggie to go in? No, he gets a single kill. He'll end up trading with his life as Akaface barely staying alive in meta as Fan is trying to find another kill.
That was a huge stun to be able to keep Akaface alive in this situation. The Immortal now goes down. They're trying to get the chase here. Will Maikyudo actually make an aggressive flight? Doesn't look like he is going to choose to do so. They do go 2 for 1 in a trade that seemed unrealistic for Gale Force right now, playing very, very well in the circumstances. And one of the biggest problems that we see here is Zuna is forcing the Divine Shield on himself. That is the worst target for the Divine Shield. You picked the Uther because you needed Illidan and a Nubrak to be able to dive the backline.
So
let's
change one thing. If that Divine Shield had come out and a Nubrak did not have to burrow charge away, so Zuna could have stayed in the front line, would that fight have been in favor of Naventic?
Any situation where the Divine Shield's going to be allowing Fan to just do his own thing, or a Nubrak to be able to do his own thing, and Zuna is not worried, or Kenma's not worried about Zuna's positioning, they're going to be in a far better position on these team fights. But Zuna's taking so much poke between the Lunara and obviously Crone's Li Ming seems to be poking everybody. That it's just, they can't commit those amount of resources.
Alrighty, well, as you mentioned, Tidal Waves was picked up at 13. Level 16 talents are just now being locked in slightly in favor of Naventic, but we did see the Mercenary get picked up in the top lane in favor of Gale Force. Gale Force also have the Mercs in bottom, and they just eliminated that bottom fort here on the side of Naventic.
They are going to be able to get the Merc pressure, and the Shaman camp is going to be rotating down there as well. I expect them to clear that out. No, that might not be the case any longer. I'd like to see them either worry about theirs or get rid of their opponents, because the Shaman camp sieging this entire time is a really rough situation. Okay, so they back out and get their own. That's actually a really heads-up play for Gale Force, largely because if they took the fight in that alleyway right there is where Illidan kind of thrives. So not risking that posturing with the siege in an area where if they lose the fight, it's going to be pretty much Fan's dream.
Yeah, Earthcraft is going to make Fan's life a little bit harder as Rhaegar now has that, but we often have to talk about just the power of Cold Embrace paired with Underking. I mean, that's going to give them this ability to basically find a priority target and burn through that with this dive style. So Cold Embrace is now, like, it's essentially a Hunter's Mark.
Yeah, it pretty much is at this point. I was just looking at when both teams go blow for blow, it's roughly 2,000, and that's not even counting the fact that Maikyudo rotated a bit slower. Now the defensive positioning when it comes to these when it comes to the Immortals, this is always such an interesting phase, largely because the team usually with the most poke becomes in a better situation.
Yeah.
Which obviously is Gale Force.
Well, the moment that they see Sylvanas in the top lane, they realize they are safe to step on forward a little bit. They've already done insane levels of poke. Udal forcing out a Phoenix in the bottom half. It is a very wasteful heroic with the Epicenter connecting there with that burrow charge. Gust up on 2, making Fan very far forward by himself. And that Earthgrass Totem doing nicely, but he's able to dive back on his opponents. And the flight from Zuna forcing Michael Udal to back on off.
Yeah, with the Divine Shield.
Not getting the kill.
Again, the Divine Shield is being used onto the backline targets here, so nobody's going to be able to dive and make a lot happen. Fan does have Metamorphosis, and Locust Swarm is still up, but again, the poking defensive positioning is complementary towards Gale Force eSports composition.
I mean, they need a money-welling arrow if they're going to take this fight, and they've already taken so much poke on their Immortal. They can't continue sitting on this defensive position.
Yeah, and because they got poked down so hard, they don't have the ability to kind of capitalize the situation where they made Gale Force back out. This is why the defensive area usually is complementary again to that poke composition. So now Gale Force, obviously they have a lot going for them. All their heroics still available. 55 on Divine Shield, but
looking for Udall. Gravity Labs is nowhere near connecting, and they're committing so much trying to chase him. This is just a big window for Gale Force to collapse, and they get one. Zuna goes down. We see the Meta to dodge the abilities, but that's a double kill. Kenma and Zuna both falling. This could be 3-4 members falling. The Haunting Wave, Wailing, Desperation being cast here, but the flying in from Michael Udall, gutting them back. That is going to be a big win for Gale Force.
They can end right now. They don't even have to do anything. They can go through top. They have Nature's Coin, one of the best tools in the game. Keep him top mind. McIntyre does have a little bit of kill potential, but he probably will just get eliminated if he chooses to do so. Everybody on Gale Force is just like, run away from the bug. We don't need to worry about him. We have the Nature's Coin, split up. Don't take too much splash damage from the auto attacks. Crowan is tanking, which isn't ideal by any means, but I think Akaface will be able to keep him up here. He does have tidal waves, keep in mind. Does keep him alive there. See, again, they're stacking a little bit too much. Great Ancestral, but he doesn't have any mana. I think it's going to be it still.
Just like that in the Grand Finals, we're sitting with Gale Force up 2-0 over Team Naventic in this best-of-5 series. I don't think anyone here expected this to be the case.
I'm impressed. I didn't expect this to be the case so far. I did think that Gale Force would give them a decent run for the money, especially with the problems we saw them having in the semifinals, but I did not think that it would be this 0-2 right out the gates. I was hoping for a 5-game where I didn't care who won. I just wanted it to be a really good series. I honestly feel like the teams are good enough to where we could have provided that, but Gale Force says, guys, no, we got this.
I mean, we just got to talk about this game throughout it. Already we saw some big plays consistently. Those Wailings coming out, the flanks that we saw from everyone. Zuna was getting flanks, but as you mentioned, a big part of the story in this game was some of those Divine Shields that came out to keep both Zuna alive, Big Impact alive, those backline heroes that should be safe in those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even a Kenma thing, right? Like, you're obviously, well, the support is Divine Shielding the wrong target. No, it's the positioning of his melee, or excuse me, his assassins are in an important enough position that it doesn't really matter here.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we're going to throw in a quick commercial break. Get ready for game number 3, so stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
Fresh meat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the desk, powered by Xfinity. I'm Solid Jake with Dreadnought.
Dreadnought.
What's up, man? What do you think of these games? 2-0 Gale Force ahead of Naventic?
I mean, I love them. Obviously, it's awesome to see like just how the high quality of them. I feel like Gale Force has pretty much been playing out of their mind. I don't think there's any chance that they give Crow and Li Ming in the next game. There's not even like a hope for it.
I can't believe we didn't see the respect ban in game 2, honestly, because Crow in game 1,
yeah,
dude, he was a monster.
I agree with you. I am surprised that they managed to let it go through. But to be completely honest, with how Naventic feels like they've been doing in the past couple of games, I question if they kind of had the composure to be able to keep together here. Yes, they are very experienced, so it is possible, but right now it is not looking good for them. That last game as well did seem to struggle. A lot of their game plan didn't work. It seemed like people were not on the same page, so.
All right, well, Gale Force actually banning out the Kale Foss. They know Zuna likes to lean to that hero. Even though he didn't have the most success in that game, they still respect it.
All right, so the Kel'Thas is going to be coming out. What is the next? Illidan, not going to be a surprise here from Naventic. So what is going to be the first pick here?
Will it be Li Ming?
I think so. It's one of her better maps. It's absolutely something that Crone wants. They go with the Tassadar instead. That is a little bit surprising. I do think we'll see Leeming from Naventic here.
At this point, yeah. I mean,
they want to remove it.
She's getting too much value. I mean, even if the other options, obviously, Sonya, Rhaegar could be a pick here. It's Crystal, it's a larger map.
We'll see, though.
But Leeming on Crone has just been monstrous.
No.
They go Rhaegar, the Wolf Pack.
I am surprised to see that make it this far with how impactful he's been specifically onto that. No surprise that they're going to now take it in their later rotations here. Greymane is now going to be in the hands of Zuna, though. Maybe be able to turn things around there. Now, Gale Force, Rhaegar is off the table. I don't think they're a specific group that feels like they're going to need the Uther, especially with Tassadar already picked up. It's usually not one of the better pairings. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with like a Murden, or if they want to go with maybe Deny of something, of maybe, or if they're worried about melees. I'm surprised that we haven't seen Thrall very much coming out of not only in this entire tournament, but for Naventic specifically as well. So I don't know. They have a lot of routes. I trust in them at this point with how well they've been playing. They probably have a pretty solid understanding of what they want to do. They go with the false set comfort.
Yeah, you know, that's just a comfort pick. Obviously, false set's very powerful in a battleground this big. And that's Rafflecopter's go-to in many, many scenarios. So now we're going into the second ban phase where Team Naventic has to consider that ban on Uther as an option for them if they want to deny that. Or they could even look at something like Sonya.
Yeah, it's a weird position. A lot of... It's not uncommon for them to ban out the Uther here, but again, I don't find it too appealing. They go with the Brightwing instead. I actually find that better than the Uther ban.
Yeah, especially with Gale Force.
Yeah, it would not only because it's Gale Force, double global on a large map, but then I also feel like I just personally really don't enjoy Tassadar Uther together. It's not a pairing that seems to work too well. The resources seem to stack in a lot of situations, and usually you don't gain too much value out of them unless you have an absurdly heavily committed like Illidan, for instance, right? Like just over heavy melee assassin with the double backline that they already have, you're not going to get that from Gale Force. So I do like the Brightwing ban from them.
Outside of Gale Force, though, I mean, this isn't a situation where they can really deny a warrior or anything like that, so they just have to look for those comfort picks, the safe picks that they know Team Naventic might be wanting to run. What stands out to you as one of those options?
Excuse me, I
just for like a full-on comfort pick, because there's no situation where they can get a warrior deny. They actually go for the Zeratul.
I actually think that's a better deny. For Naventic, I feel like that was something they were probably going to look to pull out. At the same time, I feel like they would be able to deny it, but it's kind of a response as well to the Brightwing. So when the Brightwing's banned out, usually you're going to see that as a response to play. You can't play Zeratul very easily into Brightwing tasks, so maybe removing one. They were fearful of the Zeratul, and you know Naventic likes to play it on these larger maps as well.
Okay, well, Naventic, they will lock in a warrior here, their warrior of choice, to go in with that Greymane to be the front line, but they could also lock in Sonya if they wanted to do the double bruiser. We have seen a bit of success with that this weekend. Murra is the first pick.
I don't know where Naventic's going to go from here. I would like to see them mix something up here. I think somewhere in the mix we will have a heavy melee. It's going to be Sylve, and I think last pick will be, it's again going to be a Sonya or a Thrall, most likely. I would like to see Thrall.
Yeah, Thrall has seen very little play, as you mentioned, in this event in general. With just kind of the shift of the meta happens often, teams start to favor him a little bit less as there are new laners. Zul also not getting him as much play as I would expect, but Kharazim is locked in for Gale Force.
Kharazim will be the choice now for Gale Force, actually taking 7-sided. Showing a little bit of adaptation in their play here. Tassadar Kharazim is a great pairing together. And then going with Johanna.
You know, they have a great comp for stalling out the tributes when it comes to just their survivability. Johanna at the front, she can just shine her flashlight in your eyes and make you stop the channel. You also have Leeming for the poke. And the Thrall is picked up as that last pick here for Naventic.
I'm not nearly as confident in Gale Force's draft in this game as I was in some of the others. Okay. The only redeeming qualities that I really feel is like Crone has Leeming. To be completely honest, it's not that they have a bad composition by any means. When I look at Naventic, I'm like, you got a dream composition. When I look at Gale Force, I feel like you've got
Gale Force just doesn't have the same level of engage.
Exactly, which is very important.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if your opponent's making mistakes, how do you capitalize if you can't just engage on your opponents when they make those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm always hypercritical of Johanna when she does pop up, because usually she has to have a very flanking, aggressive positioning to be able to capitalize and make something happen, because, like, one condemn is not enough to be able to start a team fight.
Right, but a blessed shield on someone out of position just to get the pick, that's usually the most you can hope for on a lone Johanna.
Yeah, and it's not to take away, Gale Force can easily win this game with the amount of poke that they have here. It's all it's going to take is one perfect initiation. But again, the counter engage and just absurd amount of damage coming from Naventic here, I think is going to be a little bit more convincing. But we're going to have to find out here, because tournament life is now on the line here for Naventic, where we are going to have Kenma on the Rhaegar. Big impact on Sylvanas. Zuna is going to be on the Greymane. McIntyre once more on the Murden, and Thrall will be played by Fan.
And on the side of Gale Force eSports, they are one game away from qualifying for the Heroes Global Championship at DreamHack Summer, with Fury on Johanna, Ruffle playing Tassadar, Michael Udall on Falsehead, Akaface playing the Karazim, and Crowan on his Li Ming, which is becoming legendary.
It is becoming legendary at this point. See how much value he's able to get out of it on this map. Again, it's one of the better ones, because there's very few moments where you're taking a team fight that something other than a hero is going to be taking the damage, as long as you can throw out the orb in the general direction of your opponents, which it turns out Crowan's pretty good at that.
He is pretty darn good at it indeed. Well, looking at the level 1 talents, nothing out of the ordinary here. Pretty much what you'd expect to see. And as always, friends, let us know what you guys think about the finals. If you think Naventic can close it out and bring it up back in for us in this game number 3, you can vote for them. Or Gale Force, who are currently up 2-0.
They're going to go for the front wall. They're actually baiting positioning right now. I don't know if they actually know this. Kema's taking a lot of damage. The condemn didn't come out in time there. His positioning was a little bit too passive. Almost made something happen here. Sylvanas, obviously, it's always easy to try and take out a front wall with the team. But again,
I love that, because we saw that in the semifinals too. Astral Authority actually walked right up into the wall, and then
they got a free kill.
Yeah, they got a free kill. Yeah.
I was on to the Illidan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very heads-up play from them. Cutting him off in rotation, though. McIntyre's going to dwarf out there. Udall says, I'm not done with you. We're going to barrel roll over and try and make something happen here as well. Tassadar Thrall lane is going to be pretty... Watch me wave clear. Watch me throw on a shield. The other one goes, I'm going to stand here and throw lightning. And both just stand around in the lane for a while. Sadly, not as entertaining as 1v1 as some of the others can be.
It's going to be esports, don't worry.
It's but for now, there's a cutoff in rotation. Naventic is moving down as well onto the Johanna. She will be spawning out, throw out the flashlight. Not going to be the case yet. Crowan is not going to hit his orb, but I don't think that'll be the story for the remainder of this game.
Okay, well, you know, we will see that Sylvanas push get potential at the moment that Naventic can realize that they have control of the rotations. And that's what they're trying to gain right now here with McIntyre and Zuna. They're just trying to open that space. But look at the bottom push. Karazim, Li Ming, Johanna really bullying Big Impact as they're waiting for that potential other Falsa to step forward and mid.
I am a little disappointed that Naventic hasn't decided to tri-lane very heavily in one lane. It looks like they're showing a little bit now on mid. There it goes. So where they capitalize somewhere. With the Sylvanas on your team, you usually have such raw amount of damage and ability to threaten a front, like a front wall, whether it be in the lane with Sylv or you just overcommitting resources elsewhere. It just feels like they could win this laning phase a little bit more convincingly with how dominant their laning matchup is for Naventic. So they did get a front wall though. Did make a minor adjustment, or a front turret, excuse me, but so did Gale Force.
Yeah, 1-1 in terms of the turrets defeated so far in this game. And level 4 being picked up at this point in time for both teams now choosing their talents. And heal there in Johanna.
Amplified Healing, looking to draw as many resources as she can from Akaface and also maybe Tast, but that's really low numbers, probably not cost-effective choice there. So now backing out, we see Gale Force is going to be able to get their camp, the simple camp, so will Zuna on the Greymane on the upper half, both the teams. It's pretty much RNG. Whoever gets the luck of the Irish here when it comes to this matchup will be able to get the tribute in their favor.
Yeah, top center or bottom center will end up being the bottom center, so in this situation, slightly in favor of Team Naventic.
But with the Falstad actually is not rotating to that solo lane, deciding to not commit. So they're in a situation where those Giants will be threatening. It's already had pressure on the front wall because Fan has done a good job of providing pressure onto that lane matchup already. So it's going to gain a decent amount of value. Meanwhile, Kenma and friends are trying to get a bit of clear. But again, Crowan just hitting those orbs max range, it feels like constantly.
Yeah, he's got that third eye with his aim on all of his skill shots. He's just hitting absolutely everything, and it's kind of crazy. But Big Impact also getting forced back, has to use that Haunting Wave to get back to base, and the Flashlight of Fury disengages Zuna from that channel.
Kenma does try to wear the orb, but it doesn't matter. Akaface will Radiant Dash to get the delay. Condemn coming in here. And one thing to keep in mind is Gale Force is really good at getting a Condemn and then hitting with a very big orb out of Crow. And he always seems to follow up with his tanks here. But overall, the health bars of Gale Force slowly falling down. One big orb might change that story, but now Kenma is channeling and going to get this. Fly comes out from Udal, but it's too late. Zuna very out of position. Stealth already going to be burned. He will be going down in this situation.
Yeah, so Zuna ends up going down, but Naventic secures themselves the Tribute while we have this Giant camp pushing in the top lane. So that's what we're talking about, the luck of where the Tribute spawns. When both teams pick up Giants at identical times, that's a big advantage they earned.
It is a big advantage they earned, and it will essentially become a slight advantage if they do manage to take Gale Force eSports boss. But really, it isn't usually as big of a problem when you do have the global Falset. You can keep him in that lane for a little bit, you know, overcommit when you need to. Definitely a little bit of a slow rotation from Michael Udal, so they are struggling in the XP department for a short period of time here.
We actually have a Wizened Duelist.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out here. If he's gonna be able to get the stacks.
That's Zuna saying he's confident that he's not going to die this game.
It's a bold statement considering he has only one solo support. Again, he's gonna be drawing a lot of resources coming out from Kenma to have that success. At the same time, I mean, very much could. Great, Rhaegar is strong enough of a support to be able to keep him up. You just usually see that ran with like a Tyrael or an Uther, like a double cross support in some way, shape, or form.
He picked that up right after dying too, so.
Confidence.
All right, the next tribute, the second tribute of the game has spawned here. Gale Force on the side of Naventic actually getting in there early, starting the channel. Falstad, the last one to make it to the fight, is just about here. And they're actually working on trying to clean up the night camp in the mid lane. Yeah,
Fury's taking a lot of damage, popping the Iron Skin here. Zuna now looking to make the rotation. I don't think anybody can delay. Never mind, Rowan does hit him with the Secret. Falstad is still soaking in the middle lane. Michael Udal has really made slow rotations here. Thrall is trying to make something happen as well. Kenma getting flashlights, he will not be able to cap it.
Raffle has to back out of here, and Fury's getting burned down. He will be the first to fall in this fight. A nice pick off here on the side of Naventic, but Kenma, many of his members and himself all very low. That chain heal is going to be a big part of keeping them up here, but Fan is able to bully two members back into the bottom half.
Yeah, and Cleanse being taken, so without Echo of Heaven, Ankar, Azim, they really don't have the ability to have those long drawn-out fights and keep the health bars above their opponents without having the mass poke. But guess who has the poke? It's going to be Falstad and Li Ming, and Falstad hasn't been there for a majority of the fights. Actually, Kenma fighting a little bit early, getting stunned out, but right now, Naventic is going to be able to pick up this boss for free, having a very heavy rotation here. Usually the boss is, when it's sieging like this, is going to be so low in health that it's not going to matter too much, largely because the next tribute will be spawning and it'll probably die around that time. But if they manage to somehow keep it alive long enough and draw resources from Gale Force, they could get a free trip.
All right, well, you know, in this game right now we do see the boss has been picked up. Obviously, Sylvanas gets crazy value when she's escorting the boss, so the bottom port very much exposed. Cloud9, who was behind in experience due to Michael Udal having that great soak on his Falstad in this game, will be evening things out in just a second as we do see the structure fall.
Now they do lock in the fort. 10 is going to be picked up for Gale Force still. That is pretty impressive that they managed to maintain this XP. So it just, if that was going to be the case, if the overall strategy for Gale Force is to out-soak their opponents for the time being, that's totally a viable strategy. They just risk too many of their own lives and positioning, I feel like, in a lot of situations to be able to get away with it. But now Tribute is going to be spawning once more. If Naventic is able to get it, there will be a curse. Falstad is going to fly, probably barrel roll over or try and make something happen here. But 10 is picked up, and this is a big fight for these teams.
Beautiful Stormbolt there onto Fury, not able to get that Iron Skin, just now popping in. And we do see that we have Fan on that Thrall, just waiting to find his flank. Sundering is a big thing you have to look out for. Zuna going to the backline, forcing that barrel over the wall, but a huge orb coming out from Crowan.
Yeah, the amount of damage from Gale Force right now with everybody there, all the poke, even though 3 people isolated, even Naventic says, guess what, this is not us, guys, we're going to hunting wave out of here and run. But Crowan's trying to be able to get the dismount wherever he can. That was a very decisive move from Naventic. Seems like the first time we've seen that heavy decision, and Zuna gets gusted
into
away.
The corner after using the disengage, Sundering in desperation, but the 7-sided strike is too much. Wizened Duelist getting no value in the Blessed Shield onto a double kill for Gale Force, not quite the triple with that Dwarf Toss.
That great play from Michael Udal there, getting the Gus into the chokehold. He had no ability to get away, especially after stealth being burnt from his disengage F4 there. So that is going to be a boss picked up for them as well. It's going to be timed relatively well with the next tribute as well, because they did burn some time to be able to get that top kill here. So depending on the tribute spawn, it may give them another free tribute and probably a free fort as well, because this is going to draw a decent amount of resources on the side of Naventic.
Yeah, and Fallside immediately able to rotate down to the bottom. They'll get the soak in mid. They're going to just kind of snowball ahead in experience, give themselves about a half-level lead, at least after this boss does finish pushing up the top lane. But they're actually opting to not really escort it so much. They just want to put presence across the map, and actually, they're going to have to go to this next tribute.
There is the tribute. It does spawn in the upper half, so it's not going to be luck out for Galeforce eSports now. They are rotating up. Giants are a really good response to early bosses, by the way. It's very hard for it. Got decent amount of damage there. It's not going to be able to die, and it's pretty much a free clear. It's better than most heroes, actually, early on. So that boss will be falling for these teams. They're posturing around. Good poke coming out from Big Impact.
Yeah, and just, again, all the heroics already in this situation. So, but you notice that Sylvanas used his Haunting Wave to get across the wall. So she's going to be a bit vulnerable for a short while here. Thrall is on the top with the boss, a little bit secluded from his team, and that's why Michael Udall is positioning himself, waiting for him to try to move in.
No 13, so Galeforce actually, Akaves does not have the Relentless quite yet. Yuzuna is being very aggressive, trying to get a flank in a majority of these situations.
McIntyre is going deep, pops the Avatar early. Zuna goes in with a go for the throw, and the Gus pushes them down into a corner with a Blessed Shield on 3, but a beautiful Ancestral, not going to be enough as that 7th star chunks him back on down. Zuna in the top, dueling with Michael Udall. Everyone on the side of Naventic is just so low.
Yeah, they're running away, and that was a really good Gus and a 4-man Wailing Arrow, but guess what?
Sunder's still up, it comes out, but the Force Ball denies them their approach, and Kenma's all by himself. He gets obliterated.
Zuna is going to be able to get taken down after the reset as well. Giants have been pushing top the entire time, but this tribute is going to go to Galeforce. They need to make sure they open up the map as best as they can during these small times. Yes, they have been able to get these advantages and remain ahead in the XP, but this is where they need to stop playing so passive. We need to see Galeforce open something up, right? They're in a situation where even if they have level 20, if you're losing in the structure where you keep letting your opponent just get as many things as they possibly can, even though they're losing the team fights, it's not really going to matter, right? Because in that later half of the map, you can't win the game. You aren't prepping the map to be in a situation where you're going to win condition. They're only in a situation where they got one fort. It was fine because they managed to take the boss for the time being. But with these small victories, Galeforce needs to stop being like, you know what, we're just going to back out and get Giants. We're going to be fine. Like, no, this is where you need to be opening the map.
All right, well, they have opened up the experience in their favor at their bare minimum, so they do have that going for them, but Naventic about to even things out with level 13 just now being picked up. They'll be locking in their talents. We have to talk about Wits and Duelists getting no value whatsoever so far in this game, and we do have Galeforce, like you said, getting a bit more aggressive. Big E all by himself. Haunting Wave will get him out away from that orb, and the totem to peel him off from that point. McIntyre has the Dwarf Toss, so what was nearly a nice pick-off for Galeforce is denied.
Yeah, it was a good attempt there to try and make something happen. Zuna has remained in the upper half of the map, so he's going to be a little bit late on this rotation. They do manage to clear the Knights for their team. Giants will be pushing on bottom, but not too big of an advantage. Level 14 has been achieved for GFE, but 13 talent tier has been picked up as well for Naventic.
Yeah, we've been seeing a decent amount of Earth Shield for that burst sustain on those frontline heroes. This, like you said, the 5th tribute will grant the first curse of the game no matter what. One of the teams will have that power for them. Giants being cleaned up nicely here. Matt controlling the space. Beautiful chain lightning from Fan, denying that safely. But those orbs cannot connect like that. Fan just took way too much damage for free, and the 7-sided is doing massive damage with a very poor Sundering coming through. Yeah, the Sundering hit very few targets. Everybody on the health, on the side of Naventic, their health bar slowly falling down. Crowan looking to try and be able to get a reset. They do not have too good of hard engage anymore. And Ancestral hitting onto McIntyre as well at half health. But guess what? Mike Udall with a power throw is going to hit 3 targets, chunking them very heavily here. Kemba is going to try and get the cap, but they do get the delay for now. Galeforce is slowly falling behind a little bit in this fight. There's no Ancestral, there's no Avatar. McIntyre needs to be careful here. And Zuna's going in all by himself. He will be burned down very quickly, but barely getting out of the reach of that Disintegrate. We see the Wailing was cast in that, but Kenma goes down, and there's no support left. The orb will pick off Sylvanas. Crowan is just on fire. This kid does not miss. It's just like, it's almost, he's like predicting the reset. He literally throws out an orb. He's like positioning. He's like, this is going to line up the next one. It's just like, oh my goodness, everything about this. I want to see him throw Hinterlands Blast. Somebody needs to put this kid on fall set. Please? If he doesn't miss, this could be the new meta. But now they are going to be able to get the boss before the tribute. That's going to maximize the value coming out of this next tribute. They have 15 tier advantage. This fort is going to get them a 15.5. They're going to threaten the keep from wall, hit 16 with a curse and a boss. This is a colossal power spike for Galeforce. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 2-0 lead right now for Galeforce. If they can close this game out, it will be their tournament and their qualification for DreamHack Summer. This is going to be their attempt to get a keep very early in this game. Level 16 will be an advantage they'll have for this push. They're insanely close, and this boss has full health with another 40 seconds on the curse.
They don't want him to get 16. Gus is up. Gus is up. They're going to be able to isolate everybody here. McIntyre's taking too much damage from the 7-sided strike.
McIntyre will end up falling here. Crowan gets the reset. The damage not going to connect there on Zuna as the disengage is enough, but Raffle in the backline, not enough. Kenma's down. The boss is wailing away at the core, and this is a bad spot for Naventic.
Yeah, Mike Udall does miss his Q at this time. You see them getting the aggression. They realize this is possibly his game ending here. They're already starting on the keep, letting the boss wail on the towers for the time being, trying to force the fight here. They do have 20 seconds before the next spawn onto Muradin and also Rhaegar at this time. This could be risky. We do not have Gus up for 30 seconds. That's a great tool when it comes to killing the core. This boss was only taking roughly 11-12 minutes. It will do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's game yet, and it looks like Gale Force is deciding to go with it.
Well, the boss is going to make it through the core pretty quickly, but we do see Naventic forcing the rest of the team back. Okay. We see Gale Force is playing rather safely, and the boss will slowly fall. Right now, Naventic manages to hold.
I just want to give a very big shout out to Gale Force eSports. This exact situation happened to them in the last regional. I mean, word for word, almost the exact same situation happened to them. They went to core, lost the game. They threw on the core. This shows that they have looked at what they're doing wrong, trying to improve and try and be the best team that they can possibly can. Obviously, you saw they were questioning it again, but they decided, guys, that's not us. Take the patient game, showing that this team is working very, very hard. I'm very impressed to see that coming out.
And this is what really separates the top teams from the next level, right?
Yes.
Because if you look at Astral Authority has an amazing early and mid game, but when it gets to the late game decision making, they make a lot of calls that end up costing them some games. We've seen that all weekend long, and right now, Gale Force, like you said, they could have lost it there if they got a little over aggressive. Who knows what would have happened, but they guarantee themselves a great spot. 2-level lead, a keep is down, and here they are ready for a fight with Naventic approaching.
Wow, going very hard to Muradin. But you don't need an avatar at this point, just not even hesitating. Crowan with a beautiful follow-up here. They are going to start the boss. Boss control is up for Mike Udall. He does have the Gus. Meanwhile, there's almost nothing minus the Sundering. They need to worry about Fan getting the isolation Mike here. Naventic is getting the flank. Mike Udall is in a bad spot.
Kenma is all by himself. There's huge damage. He tries to get in with a feral lunge, but 2 members down. That's a dead Zuna. 3 for nothing with the reset still coming through. The Wolf connects, but Michael Udall is he's even baiting the fly.
Yeah, he's baiting the fly at this point. That's going to be game. It should be. They can break the sidewall through mid and end the game. Big impacts are going to be getting away. That's it. That's it. That's it. Gale Force eSports is representing North America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Udall is flying in. Gale Force will march across the battleground.
They didn't even take the sidewall. They're taking the slow route. They're actually risking a lot here.
Well, many members will be respawning in about 10 seconds. This is going to be very difficult for Naventic to hold. Just McIntyre alive. He needs to be careful here and pop that avatar, but the core, the shields are now down. Naventic just respawning a little bit too late, it seems. Gale Force burning through it, down to 50% health. It looks like they have done it and earned their spot at the Heroes Global Championship at DreamHack Summer. Gale Force will represent North America.
Well worth. They played out of their mind. That was absurdly impressive coming out from them on all fronts. Showing
3-0?
Not only that, it just, like, obviously we know Crowan's a great player when it comes to the Li Ming. The follow-up, the teamwork, there was a lot of things that happened that I just feel like you can look at what they've done in the past and where they struggled, and it seems like you can blatantly see in every single play that they have been working to make it better. They have just, like, whether it be shot calling, whether it be following up on your tank, whether it be rotating together, every single thing about it feels like they were trying to very heavily work on it, and that's something I feel like we don't see too often.
We've seen such ridiculously good killer instinct too.
Yes.
They know when they can pick someone off, and they get those kills left and right. They know when the rotations are happening, and also they know when to back out. And this is what the biggest evolution of this team is. They were a new team. Many of these players, heroes of the dorm, world champions at that point for them. I mean, Michael Udall, Akaface, I mean, at Rafflecopter, they were all involved in that heroic 4, and here they are showing that not only are they collegiate champions, but they are national champions.
All right. These guys are happy. These guys are happy. Udall, come to me, man. Congratulations, guys, for being the winners here. Okay, so Rafflecopter mentioned that you were going to body them in the finals. All right, but elaborate a little bit more. Why were you guys so confident going into the finals?
I mean, I think we really knew their draft going into it. I think, personally, I think we outdrafted them every single game, and I think it definitely showed. Naventic is a great team, don't get me wrong, but they play very, very aggressive, and we're very good at playing against that kind of style. All
right, so I've got to ask, you're going to Summer now. You are going to DreamHack Summer. You've taken that away from Cloud9, even having a chance of getting that tiebreaker. You guys are going. What do you make of Summer? What are your anticipations going forwards?
I mean, our goal since day one, our Skype chat, it's actually really funny, our Skype chat when we first formed as a team, it said the future of NA. So we're here and we're here to stay. BlizzCon 2016, guys, we're going to win it.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, give it up for your champions here in North America, Gale Force eSports.
You know, Dread, it's been a crazy weekend here in North America. Gale Force New Blood making its way to the Global Championships. I couldn't be happier to have been a part of this whole event.
I completely agree with you, and to be completely honest, I'm proud to say that they are representing North America. No matter what their success is going into Sweden, I feel like it's a group of guys that show their hard work. I mean, I often compare them to Mindsanity when it comes to Europe, but I'm proud to see them moving on.
Alrighty, guys. Well, Naventic and Gale Force Esports will be our two teams representing us at the Heroes Global Championship. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at DreamHack Summer for the World Championship. Take care.
Team A versus Team B.